They all laughed at the poor dishwasher's dreams, but her unbelievable talent changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. I stood in that cramped kitchen, surrounded by greasy plates and the smell of burnt food. My hands trembled over the soapy water. Each dish, each shattered dream seemed to echo in the silence around me. The laughter of my co-workers rang in my ears, like a twisted serenade mocking my aspirations. They stood at the counter, rolling their eyes as I sang to myself, drowning out my painful reality that my name is Mia, and I was just a dishwasher in a small diner. My nights consisted of scrubbing off layers of grease while my heart sang songs of hope. They say I have an incredible voice, but all they saw was the girl at the sink, lost in her bubbles. My family had always pushed me to chase my dreams, but I had buried that dream deep beneath the weight of bills and responsibility. My mother used to say, "Mia, the world doesn't just listen to dreams. You have to show them," but where was I to start? Every evening, I clocked in just as the shadows grew long and the chatter of the diner turned into the deafening hum of despair. The owner, a grumpy old man named Charlie, would bark orders while the waitress, Linda, served meals with an eye roll. There were moments when I thought they might notice me. When I belted out a note, or when my voice danced above the bustling chatter. But laughter replaced encouragement. One fateful night changed everything. As the diner thrummed with life, the power unexpectedly flickered and died. In that spooky silence, I heard the breath of an idea tugging at my heart. My trembling hands reached for the floor's damp surface, pretending to switch on the music that wasn't there. I closed my eyes that I could feel the stairs. This might be my moment. The atmosphere shifted. A few curious faces peered around tables, intrigued by my sudden bravery. I started singing, my voice rising in the darkness. I didn't care what they thought. I was enveloped in sound, every note cutting through the thick air. Then, silence. I opened my eyes. Everyone was gaping. The world seemed suspended, held captive by the rawness of my voice. I couldn't breathe, and yet, I had never felt so alive. But as fast as the moment built, it crumbled. The lights flickered back on. Charlie's face morphed from confusion to rage. What was that? He yelled, slicing through the charged air. My heart sank. I stammered, just trying to before he cut me off. I was back to the girl at the sink, a dream crushed, laughter echoing around me once more like a cruel joke. My stomach knotted. Would I ever be more than the dishwasher? Just then, a stranger walked in. A well-dressed man, eyes narrowed on me. He held a sparkling business card. Something about him spoke of possibility, of something greater. My heart raced, but why was he here? What did he want from me? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed harshly, illuminating the shocked faces of customers and staff alike. The stranger, his presence an anomaly amongst the usual crowd of greasy plates and half-eaten meals, stepped closer, his tailored suit a glaring contrast to the stained aprons of the diner staff. My heartbeat thundered in my ears as I caught a glimpse of the business card he held. "Excuse me, miss," he said, his voice soft yet steady, cutting through the lingering tension. "What you just did, that was something special." My cheeks flushed with embarrassment and confusion as Charlie stormed past, muttering a string of frustrated curses under his breath. I glanced at the customers, their surprised expressions slowly morphing into whispers and hastily exchanged glances. Why was he complimenting me? Did he not hear the whispering mockery some still echoed amongst their half-finished plates? "Who are you?" I finally managed, My voice barely rising above the clattering dishes. "Eli," he replied, extending a hand toward me, forcing my gaze to lock with his brilliant blue eyes that held a glint of sincerity. "I work with an independent label. We're always on the lookout for untapped talent." He smiled, a glimmer of hope igniting deep within me. I was used to scorn, not recognition, but before I could process what he was saying, Charlie's booming voice pulled me back from the edge of excitement. "Get back to work, Mia. You're wasting time with this nonsense." I flinched, the weight of his words crashing down on me again, drowning out Ella's offer. Disappointment burned fiercely inside me, dousing my fragile hope. What would my mother have said? "You have to show them," I remembered. But here I was, once again overshadowed by the chaos of reality. "Charlie, wait." I called out, rekindling my courage, but he was already storming through the kitchen door, a whirlwind of bad temper and disdain. Ella's brow furrowed as he watched Charlie leave, disbelief etched on his face. "Listen, Mia," Eli said, stepping back into my personal space, his voice now a soft whisper, "don't let him crush your spirit. You have something rare, and you can't ignore it." "You shouldn't ignore it," those words wrapped around me like a cozy blanket against the chill of despair. For a fleeting moment, the oppressive gloom lifted, and I could almost taste what it would be like to step into a world where I wasn't just a dishwasher. But the reality of my life jerked me back. "I can't," I breathed, my voice trembling, "I have bills and responsibilities. Dreams are for people who can afford to chase them." Ella's expression hardened momentarily, like he understood all too well the hurdles I faced. "That doesn't mean you don't deserve a chance," he replied, fire igniting in his voice. "What you did tonight wasn't just singing. You connected with people. I saw it in their faces. You can't deny the spark you created." I hesitated, sizing up his unwavering conviction against the crumbling world around me. "It's easy to believe in dreams when you're out of this place," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He stepped closer, the scent of his cologne somehow managing to brighten the stale air. "I know it's daunting, but I wouldn't ask if I didn't believe in what I saw. You need hope, Mia, and I can help you find it. Just take the first step." Just then, Linda, the waitress with only scorn for my aspirations, sauntered through the door, her arms crossed, a lens of skepticism aimed right at us. "What's going on here?" she inquired, her voice dripping with caustic curiosity. Eli stiffened, and I felt a rush of anxiety surge through me. "Nothing," I stammered, unable to meet either of their eyes. A bubble of clarity popped in my mind. How futile it would be to try and convince anyone here of my worth, especially someone who had already made it clear they felt I was beneath them. With newfound resolve, I took a deep breath. "I have to go. I'm sorry, I just can't." The weight of my decision throbbed like an open wound as I turned my back on Eli, the door swinging on rusty hinges as I stepped into the night. The air outside felt cold and fresh, a stark contrast to the suffocating walls of the diner. I walked for blocks, my emotion boiling over, tears spilling down my cheeks. Had I just let my one chance slip away? Was this really what my life had come to? But as I walked, the dim lights of a bus station flickered in the distance. I paused, catching my breath, the sound of a distant guitar echoing in the night air. My heart raced, a memory flashing through Mimi, mother waiting for me at the bus station, her smile a beacon of hope in the dreary twilight of our lives. I turned, making my way toward the sound. There, I found a young man, strumming quietly on the steps, lost in his own dream. As I stood there, something in me stirred. Maybe, just maybe, I needed a reminder of who I was before this job, before the laughter and judgment. And then, just as I felt a small glimmer of courage spark within me again, I overheard a conversation between two women seated nearby. "Did you hear? A scout is in town looking for new talent. Some local competition starting soon." My heart stopped. My breath caught. Was it possible? Could I actually find a stage to share my voice? The doubt whispered in my mind once more, but the potential shone like a beacon in the darkness, the chance to break free, to finally show them who I really was. But before I could act on my impulse, a phone buzzed in my pocket. yanking me back to my reality that it was a text from my mother. "We need to talk." "It's urgent." That I froze, the sense of foreboding creeping back in. Another burden to weigh me down. Or news that could change everything. Heart racing, I realized it was time to face not just my dreams but the reality of my life. As I turned away from the music, I felt a fissure open in my heart, both hopeful and terrified for what was to come. The bus station loomed in front of me, its flickering lights casting shadows against the walls that mirrored the turmoil inside my chest. I could taste the bitterness of regret mingling with the faint flicker of hope that had ignited moments ago, yet my mother's text was a storm cloud looming overhead, a reminder that I couldn't afford to escape into dreams without dealing with the harsh realities of life first. My fingers trembled as I unlocked my phone, the words from her message lingering ominously. "We need to talk. It's urgent." What could be so urgent? Was it about the bills piling up at home? Maybe Uncle Joe had finally decided to sell the family house, the one filled with cherished memories and echoes of laughter that seemed to have vanished long ago. With every step toward the payphone, my heart raced faster, anticipation and dread blending into a cacophony of emotions. I hadn't used one in years. The muffled sounds of the station created a backdrop that seemed almost surreal, the strumming of the guitar fading away. I glanced back one last time, thinking of Eli's kind demeanor and the dreams he represented, the vulnerability I had just tasted becoming bittersweet. That as I dialed my mother's number, I felt a new wave of uncertainty crash down on me. Would she understand if I admitted I wanted to sing? Or would she criticize me for thinking beyond our fragile existence? My mind was spinning with possibilities, each more daunting than the last. That it rang twice before her voice crackled through the receiver. "Mia." Her tone was strained, unraveling the tension in the air. "Where are you?" "I've been worried sick." "Sorry, Mom." I was don't apologize. "Just come home, please. I really need you." Her plea, thick with unspoken fears, sent a shiver down my spine. "Is it about bills again?" "I can pick up more shifts, I'll manage," I responded, trying to quell the rising sense of panic. "No, no. It's different this time." A long pause stretched between us, heavy with unsaid words. "Can you just come home? I'll explain everything when you get here." The urgency in her voice banished my thoughts of dreams and opportunities like a gust of wind scattering fragile leaves. "Okay, I'll be right there." After hanging up, I felt a knot forming in my stomach, knowing I now had to balance my aching dreams with whatever was waiting for me, a burden both familiar and unsettling. That I stepped out of the station, the cold air slapping my cheeks, reining me in as I began my trek back home. The world felt hollowed out, each passing car echoing my growing fears. My mother had become the rock that held everything together. If she faltered, what would become of us? As I walked, the dim streetlights illuminated my path, their glow a reminder of the small moments of hope that lingered like stubborn weeds fighting for space in the cracks of concrete. That little moment with Eli had changed something fundamental within me, yet I could not allow myself to explore it too deeply. My reality would pull me back. When I finally reached our small apartment, I hesitated at the door, taking a deep breath before pushing it open. The familiar scent of her floral air freshener brought a wave of comfort, but the anxiety unfolded as soon as I saw her face. My mother was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly. Something was clearly troubling her more than the usual worries of life. "Mia, sit down." Her eyes were glistening, betraying the strength she tried to project. I did as she asked, an unease creeping up my spine. "What's going on?" I prodded gently, attempting to remain calm even as my heart raced. Her voice trembled slightly. "I went to the doctor today." The dreaded words hung like a noose in the air. I found out. She swallowed hard, the words almost choking her. "I've been diagnosed with something serious." Time stumbled to a halt as my world started to shatter around me. "What do you mean serious?" I barely managed to whisper, the reality shifting beneath my feet. The vibrant dreams I had just skimmed in moments of boldness crumbled in an instant, replaced by the harsh weight of this truth. "It's early stage, and we can manage it, but it means I need help. We can't just live on your income anymore." The announcements around me blurred as her words landed, heavy and unforgiving. I pinched my arm, hoping to wake from a nightmare. But I can get more shifts. I'll figure out a way. I tried to sound optimistic, but despair seeped into my voice. Her head shook slowly, her gaze searching mine. No, Mia. It's not just about the money. I need you to take care of yourself, too. This is hard for both of us. Promise me you won't give up on your dreams. A mix of anger and fear surged through me, battling the flickers of hope that had begun to emerge. What's the point if you need me here? If I chase them, who takes care of you? I can't ask you to give up everything, she said, her voice steady even as her eyes spilled over with tears. You deserve a chance, but what did that really mean? To dream, to step outside our tiny world, while my mother sat trembling just beyond reach? Could I risk it all after this revelation? The thought of Eli and his promise banged against the walls of my heart like an unanswered prayer, now drenched in the sorrow of my mom's fatigue. Just then, my phone buzzed from my pocket, a message from Eli. Mia, I know you might doubt it, but think about what I said. I truly believe you have something special. Don't walk away from it. My chest tightened, caught in the snare of two worlds, one defined by responsibility and sacrifice, the other lit by uncharted potential. The fight surged within me, boiling against the raw edifice of emotions I had tried to ignore. I looked into my mother's eyes, searching for a glimmer of understanding, and maybe a little hope. And in that moment, tangled between fear and possibility, I realized the journey to find my voice was just beginning, but the choices lay heavy on my heart that I breathed in deeply, ready to respond only for the words to catch in my throat. How could I choose? How could I be both daughter and dreamer? The fracture of silence deepened, and I knew I had reached another crossroads, the weight of destiny pressing upon every inch of me. The air in the small apartment grew thick with unspoken fears as I stared into my mother's eyes, desperately searching for guidance and solace. But all I saw reflected back was her own turmoil, her pained expression a mirror of my own feelings. Hadn't we both spent years trying to hold a fragile world together, only to find it fracturing beneath us? Mia, she whispered, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand, her touch grounding me with a sense of familiarity and love. I won't pretend this is easy. I just want you to know that I believe in you. I always have. The words struck a chord deep within my heart, but they were overshadowed by an overwhelming wave of guilt. How could I chase after dreams when my mother needed a lifeline? The sounds of laughter and music from the bustling street below reminded me of what might lie outside these walls: freedom, opportunity, the chance to breathe life into my dreams. Yet, the siren call of responsibility kept me anchored to this fragile moment. As I sat in silence, my phone buzzed again, pulling me from the depths of my soul searching. It was another message from Eli, a simple one this time: I'm here if you need to talk. His kindness lit a spark that flickered precariously amidst the shadows looming over us. Mia. My mother's voice pulled me back as she tightened her grip. You're so quiet. What are you thinking? I hesitated, weighing how to express the raging storm inside. I'm trying to reconcile what you just told me with the life I want, I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. But it's like they're two different worlds, the one here with you and the one in my dreams. There's no need to choose one over the other, sweetheart, she said softly, gazing at me with an intensity that made me feel vulnerable. Your dreams can coexist with reality. You just have to find the balance. I can't be your anchor anymore, Mia. I want you to spread your wings. The unyielding weight of her words struck a chord, but somewhere inside me, a flicker of hope ignited a tender flame, warming the chill of uncertainty. Maybe I could find that balance. Maybe it was possible to dream and still be present for her. As if sensing my agitation, my phone chimed again. Ella's persistent encouragement pushed me from my doubts. Talk about your dreams with your mom. Invite her into your world. Have you thought more about the auditions? My mother asked, easing the tension with gentle encouragement. When is the next one? I shivered at the memory of the audition flyer I had reluctantly tucked away. In a few weeks. I wasn't sure how I could even think about it after today. Don't let the fear hold you back, Mia. Fear can suffocate your voice, she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I don't even know what the future holds for me, but you owe it to yourself to try. Her words hit me like rain against parched earth. An urgent need to express myself bubbled up, fierce and wild. Could I dare to believe in something bigger than my reality, something that would not only uplift me but also illuminate my mother's path? I had a moment today, I finally revealed, my heart racing as I spoke. I met this guitarist, Eli. He believes in me. He sees something in me I don't even know if I believe in myself. The admission swirled around the kitchen, heavy but hopeful, the corners of my mother's mouth twitched upward, a hint of a proud smile forming. You deserve someone who believes in you, Mia. I see it in the way you talk about music. It lights you up like nothing else, and just like that, a bridge began to form between my aspirations and the stark reality I faced. With every word exchanged, a layer of guilt fell away, revealing a raw, unfiltered desire to pursue my craft while remaining devoted to her. But before I could sink fully into that new reality, my phone buzzed once more, this time with a long-winded text from Eli. My heart raced as I opened it, but the moment of levity was dashed as I read the concerning words, I need to talk to you. Something happened, and am not sure how to explain. Please come by later. The simmering turmoil surged once more, and my pulse quickened. Why was Eli reaching out like this? What could possibly have happened? The flickering hope from before faced yet another tide of uncertainty, creating a whirlwind of emotions that threatened to spin out of control. Mia? My mother asked, her brow furrowing as she gently nudged the phone from my grasp. What's wrong? Just Eli needs me. I don't know what it is, but I have to go. My heart thudded painfully, splitting between my obligations to her and this new world I was beginning to explore. She took a breath, her eyes searching mine, and I could see her processing my struggle. It's okay to go. I'll be here. Just promise me you won't run from what you really want. Promise me you will take a step toward your dreams. Her words echoed in my mind as I slipped on my jacket, the weight of my decision hanging heavy around me. As I turned toward the door, a mixture of anxiety and anticipation churned within me. The pull of my dreams battled against the looming responsibilities, and the thought of Eli waiting was both exhilarating and terrifying. Keep me updated, okay? My mother called after me as I slipped out into the chilly night, a reminder that our world was still intertwined. No matter how far I strayed in pursuit of my voice, the streetlights flickered above me, casting my shadow across the sidewalk as I hurried to meet Eli, not knowing what challenges awaited. What had transpired that made him so urgent? My stomach twisted as the knot of uncertainty swelled. All I knew for sure was that the moment I stepped outside those doors, I was entering a new chapter, one that would test my courage, my heart, and the fragile threads of our love. The crisp night air stung my cheeks as I walked down the dimly lit street, a blanket of thickening thoughts swirled around me. Eli's message echoed in my mind, each word wrapping tighter around my chest, leaving little room to breathe. What could have happened that he needed to talk urgently? Each step felt heavy with unanswerable questions, weaving through worries about my mother, my dreams, and this unexpected turn toward the unknown. Once I arrived at the small cafe where we often met, a familiar warmth enveloped me. The faint sound of laughter and clinking cups created a comforting hum, and yet tonight it felt distant, echoing as if from another world. I spotted Eli seated at our usual table, a golden halo of light illuminating his face, and for a fleeting moment, his presence soothed my turbulent heart. Hey, I said as I approached, trying to read his expression, a mix of concern and something else, something deeper. Thanks for coming, he replied, his voice tinged with anxiety. I didn't want to text too much. It's a lot. He shifted in his seat, the light catching the shadows of his worry. Taking the seat across from him, I felt an involuntary shiver run down my spine. What happened? I asked, my own anxiety creeping into every word. Eli took a deep breath, his fingers tapping nervously against the table. I was at the studio earlier, and well, I got into a fight with Jake. Jake, his bandmate, seemed to stir trouble wherever he went, but I had never seen it escalate to this level. What was it about? He looked down at his hands, gathering his thoughts, and then finally met my gaze, eyes earnest. He was making jokes about your audition, saying that someone like you shouldn't even think of getting on stage. I don't know why I snapped, but I couldn't let him talk like that about you. You deserve so much more. His voice trembled as he spoke, revealing a fierce protectiveness that both warmed and unnerved me. Suddenly, an unexpected warmth filled the chilly cafe. My heart fluttered, yet I felt the weight of his words settle heavily in my stomach. Eli, that doesn't matter. I mean, there are always going to be people who know. He interrupted, leaning forward, his eyes alight with sincerity. It matters, Mia. You have this incredible talent, I see it in you. You can't let someone like him define your potential. A fragile flicker of hope ignited in my heart, but Eli's agitation contrasted sharply with the steadiness I tried to maintain. But it's not that easy. I have a life I'm trying to build here, a mother who needs me. He reached across the table, a gesture so simple yet filled with so much promise. I know, but that doesn't mean you have to give up who you are. You can't let fear hold you back. Before I could respond, the bell above the cafe door jingled and instrode a familiar figure, one that sent a cold wave of confusion crashing over me. It was Jake, swaggering in like he owned the place. My initial instinct was to retreat, to escape the looming presence that elicited bile in my throat, but before I could react, Eli was already on his feet. Why are you here? Eli demanded, his voice low but edged with a fierce intensity. Jake smirked, unfazed. Just coming for a coffee. Didn't know I'd find you here playing the night for the dishwasher. Heard you were getting cozy with her after clowning on her dreams. His tone dripped with derision, and I felt my cheeks flush with anger, embarrassment, but above all, an urge to shrink away. I don't care what you think, Jake, Eli shot back, his voice growing louder. You don't get to belittle someone who's working hard for what they want. Panic threatened to choke me. Eli, stop. It's okay. Let him be. But my words fell flat as I could feel the tension mounting, the air thick with unspoken words and rising tempers. You don't know what hard work is. You're just playing circus with your little band and pretending like you're something special, Jake sneered, and I watched as Ella's fists clenched, his jaw tightening. I mean, come on, do you really expect someone like her to shine on stage? The air felt electric, and in that moment, I could hardly breathe. The weight of the world around me pressed heavily on my shoulders, the hopes I had begun to entertain crushed by the mocking laughter of someone who didn't even matter. Disappointment washed over me as Eli caught my eyes, a silent plea for me to hold on, but just as quickly as the tension had risen, Jake smirked and turned to leave, tossing one final barb over his shoulder. Hope you're not getting too attached, guitarist. Shall just bring you down. In a flurry, Eli's anger dissipated, replaced by the same vulnerability I had felt just moments ago. He sank back into his chair, the light in his eyes dimming, and the cafe, once filled with laughter, now felt suffocatingly quiet. I felt a swell of emotions, anger at Jake for his spiteful words, but also a crushing despair creeping back in. Maybe there was a part of me that believed it too. Eli stared at me, uncertainty shadowing his features. I'm so sorry, Mia. I should have just let it go. No. I exclaimed, surprising both of us. You stood up for me. That means something. Yet, even as I said the words, the tug-of-war inside me raged. Could I truly bear the weight of performing under the scrutiny of harsh voices like Jake's, forever echoing doubts in my mind, and haunted by the obligation to my mother? Eli leaned in closer. You're so much more than you were led to believe, Mia. You're not just some dishwasher in a cafe. You have a voice that needs to be heard. At that moment, a small part of me longed to believe him. As I raised my cup of coffee to my lips, my heart weighed heavy, caught between the love and loyalty I felt toward my mother and the burgeoning dream that Eli fed with his unwavering faith. But deep down, another nagging doubt lurked in the shadows, clouding over the hope that had sparked. I couldn't shake the sensation that this was merely the beginning of the storm, a prelude to an undeniable conundrum that could unravel everything I held dear. Let's just go, I managed to say, losing my appetite for confrontation. As I stepped out of the cafe, a part of me felt that our dreams and reality would collide in a way none of us anticipated. What had I stepped into? A world that promised more than I had ever imagined but threatened to pull me under, igniting fears that were darker than I had ever faced before. Just then, my phone dinged once more, and I braced myself for yet another twist in this relentless dance of hope and despair. Meet me at the old park tonight. There's something you need to know, the text read from an unknown number, making my heart stop. Who was it? The dusk thickened the air around me, heavy with foreboding, leaving me standing at the precipice of truth. My dreams weighted against the responsibilities I carried within my heart. The park was nearly empty when I arrived, shrouded in an eerie stillness that only deepened my sense of foreboding. Shadows danced under the flickering street lamps, casting elongated figures that felt almost ghost-like. I stood frozen for a moment, clutching my phone tightly, gazing at the text that had drawn me here. There's something you need to know. As I turned to scan the pathways, I caught sight of a figure leaning against the gnarled trunk of an old oak tree. How it felt like some kind of twisted spell had drawn it there. When my eyes met the figure, my heart dropped. It was Vivian, a girl from high school who I hadn't seen in ages, but her once vibrant presence appeared drained, her face shadowed in distress. Vivian? I called out hesitantly, stepping closer. She straightened and met my gaze, a mix of relief and hesitation surfacing on her features. Mia, I'm so glad you came. I didn't know who else to reach out to. About what? I asked, the unanswered question spinning in my mind, tightening my chest with anxiety. She glanced around, as if half expecting someone to materialize from the shadows. It's about your mom. My stomach twisted unnaturally. What about her? There was a profound weight in the silence that followed, and when Vivian finally spoke, the tremor in her voice sent an icy shiver through me. I heard from Marissa that she's been visiting that clinic more often. They think it might be serious. Serious? I echoed, the word hanging in the air like a foreboding storm cloud. What do you mean? The doctors are running tests. There's talk about her memory. The ground beneath me felt as though it were eroding, shifting away into an abyss I had spent years trying to ignore. A churning sensation rose within me, a treacherous wave of guilt surged through my veins. No. That's impossible. She seemed fine. Vivian moved closer, reaching out a hand in a small gesture of comfort. Mia, I know it's hard to hear. I wouldn't tell you this if I didn't think it was important. I just thought you should know. My thoughts warred within me like raging titans. I was terrified by the prospect of losing my mother to the clutches of something as cruel as memory loss, but I was also paralyzed by the weight of my obligation to her. The dreams I had dared to cradle, the very dreams Eli had encouraged, now seemed insurmountable, tangled amidst the smothering fears that choked my aspirations. What do I do? I whispered, a tremor crackling in my voice. Vivian looked at me with an expression of sorrow and determination coalescing into something fierce. You need to be there for her, Mia. But you also can't let go of yourself. You have to live for you too. Her words echoed Ellis, but from Vivian, they felt like a double-edged sword, each edge cutting deeper into the suffocating silence of my heart. Feeling drained and helpless, my head swirled with conflicting emotions as I staggered back slightly and leaned against the tree. What if I can't balance it? What if I lose everything? A flicker of determination ignited in Vivian's eyes, her voice growing steadier. You won't. You're stronger than you think. You have an incredible talent, Mia, don't ever forget that. But you have to choose to fight for your dreams, no matter how difficult. Suddenly, we were both startled by the sound of footsteps crunching on the gravel behind me. I turned and saw Eli approaching, concern etched across his features as he took in the scene. Mia. I was looking for you. Embarrassment washed over me, realizing how vulnerable I must appear. I just had to talk to someone about my mom. His eyes darted to Vivian, who seemed to be swallowed by her own thoughts, and I felt an unexpected twinge of discomfort. Their gazes met, an unspoken understanding passing between them. What's going on? Eli asked, the protective edge in his voice sharpening. It's nothing, I lied, almost too quickly, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. Just catching up. But Eli wasn't convinced. "You look upset. What did she say?" The heaviness of it loomed like a storm above me, and I found myself wishing I could hide behind one of the trees, escaping the multitude of emotions simmering inside. I hesitated, pressing my lips together, grappling with whether to share the news. The safety of silence felt easier, but was it right? Vivian cleared her throat. "I think it's important, Eli. Mia deserves to know." I shot her a desperate look, but it only fueled the determination in her voice. "You both deserve to know the truth." Ellis' expression shifted, concern morphed to sympathy, his gaze softening. "Mia, whatever it is, we'll face it together. You don't have to go through this alone." In that instant, I felt the ground beneath me give way, a conflict within me spiraling into chaos. Could I truly risk everything I cherished, the delicate balance of my mother's needs and my own uncertain aspirations? And just as the boundaries of my emotions began to shift, my phone buzzed again ferociously in my pocket. I glanced down, heart pounding when I saw an unfamiliar number flash on the screen. "It's the hospital," I said softly, my voice trembling. Eli took a step closer, his presence an anchor amidst the swirling storm in my heart. He reached for my hand, grounding me in this moment, as my other hand trembled over the phone, the choice echoing in the silence. The screen lit up, and with it, the promise of a revelation hung tantalizingly close, one that could shatter illusions and redefine everything I believed. I took a deep breath and swiped to answer. "Hello." But instead of a reassuring voice, I heard only noisy a mix of voices breaking through the line. "An emergency." A name that ignited cold fear within me. "Mia, we need you to come in right away." I looked up, panic-stricken, my heart beat a frantic drum as I clutched the phone tighter. Ellis' eyes widened, filled with a mixture of concern and understanding. In a world of uncertainty, we stood at the edge of a precipice, the weight of choice pressing dangerously upon us. As I hung up, new, terrifying journey beckoned. My heart raced with dread and unresolved hope. Would I still be the girl with dreams, or would fate pull me into a harsh reality from which I could never return? The trees loomed overhead, stretching out like skeletal fingers, the moonlight barely managing to seep through their boughs. My heart raced, each beat a reminder of the uncertainty that slithered through my mind. I had heard the urgency in that voice, the weight it carried, a plea laced with a sense of dread. Each word pulled me further away from the safety of ignorance and toward a harsh reality I had tried desperately to avoid. "Mia." Ellis' voice cut through my tumultuous thoughts, soft yet resolute. "What did they say?" I swallowed hard, fighting against the overwhelming swell of emotion that threatened to break in the form of tears. They said I need to come in." Vivian's expression darkened, concern etching deeper lines across her face. "They didn't say what it was?" I shook my head. The risk of saying what I feared most felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, the ground crumbling beneath me with every idle thought. Instead of sharing what lingered in my mind, I shook my head again, desperately trying to find some anchor in this tide of chaos. "I don't know." Eli took a step closer. "We should go together." The offer hung heavy between us, as if to tether me to something solid in a storm of uncertainty. Yet as much as I longed for his support, I could feel the weight of my responsibilities pulling me in a different direction. "No, I can't. I need to do this alone," I said, the words tumbling out more forcefully than I intended, but it wasn't just fear that compelled me to chase solitude, it was also the deep-rooted guilt that gripped me. What could I possibly speak of now? Did I even have the right to fall apart when my mother might be facing something so profound? Their eyes searched mine for a flicker of hope, but the impenetrable fog behind them alarmed me. "Mia," Vivian hesitated, her gaze steadying on me. "You're not alone. This is your mom. Whatever it is, you have people who care about you." With those words, the warmth of camaraderie burst forth, momentarily dispelling the chill in my bones. I pulled my gaze to Eli, remembering the laughter we had shared, the countless nights spent dreaming of the future. "I just need to. Mia, you don't have to face this all on your own," Eli repeated, urgency in his tone. "Please, let us come with you." There was something in his voice, an inflection that broke through my stubbornness and tucked the shadows away momentarily. Vivian stepped closer, her fingers brushing against my forearm, and it was just enough to remind me that perhaps vulnerability wasn't the end, maybe it could be a bridge to connection. "Well, be with you every step of the way. Nothing can break you if you have your friends by your side." That as much as I didn't want to admit it, their support felt like a fragile lifeline, something to tether me amidst the uncertainty swirling around. I glanced between them, a storm of conflicting emotions brewing inside, fear, guilt, gratitude. Finally, I relented, my voice barely above a whisper. "Okay." Together, with one breath, the decision settled inside my heart, calming a storm that had raged far too long. With Vivian on one side and Eli on the other, we left the park, stepping into the thin veil of night lit only by scattered stars. The hospital loomed ahead, a stark design against the sky, the bright fluorescent lights slicing through the darkness where shadows dared to linger. My heart pounded with every step, a steady reminder of the unknown awaiting us inside. A woman in scrubs walked past, her gait brisk, intent, and a sudden sense of urgency seeped into my bones, forcing my feet to move faster. Upon entering, the sterile scent of antiseptic washed over us, mingling with the muffled sounds of hushed voices and distant beeping machines. Each footstep echoed unnervingly in the foyer, amplifying an anxious quietude that seemed to cling to the walls. "Check in here," a receptionist waved us over, her demeanor businesslike, yet there was a kindness hidden in her eyes. In coherent whispers, we explained who I was, the urgency of my arrival, and with every passing second, I felt an inconvenient knot tighten in my stomach. I watched as Eli's fingers absent-mindedly drummed against the edge of the counter, a subtle echo of my own burgeoning anxiety. After what felt like an eternity, the receptionist glanced up from the computer, and the gentle kindness I had perceived moments earlier vanished as she frowned. "I'm afraid there's been a mix-up. You'll have to wait for a doctor to review your case before wait." "No." The words escaped my lips like a desperate plea, urgency pushing me beyond the constraints of my usual reserve. "How can you say my name? What's happening?" The receptionist met my gaze, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw something soften in her eyes, a flicker of understanding. "We cannot disclose any details without authorization. You may have to wait." "No. I can't do that." My voice held a raw edge, tremors of fear and desperation breaking through my usual restraint. Eli shifted beside me, an unyielding strength that echoed through his touch wrapped around my arm, reminding me I was not alone. "Let's just take a breath, Mia. Whatever happens, we need to stay calm." His voice held a soothing quality, something to hold on to amidst the panic clawing at my insides that I took a step back, biting down on my quivering lip as I struggled to avoid spiraling into full-blown panic. How could I sit idle while my mother could be undergoing an ordeal unknown to me? What if she needed me? Just as I was about to erupt in frustration, a doctor appeared, his face expressionless yet sculpted with a seriousness that sent a shiver through me. "Mia." "I'm Dr. Harris. We need to talk." The world around me slowed, shades melding into one another, and I turned to look at Eli and Vivian. They were my anchors, but I felt the solidity of it begin to slip. "No, I can't. It's going to be okay," Vivian said soothingly, though I could hear the tremble in her voice, the equal parts uncertainty and assurance that tethered us together. As I walked toward him, each step felt monumental, the unknown squirming beneath my skin. The heaviness of dread wrapped around me like a shroud, and with each step, I prepared for a revelation that could either shatter me or somehow bring me back to life. "Let's talk," Dr. Harris said, and with those words, the door to a room opened ahead, unveiling a world of clarity that simultaneously felt terrifying and inevitable. In that single heartbeat, as I crossed the threshold, I understood that nothing would ever be the same again. What truth would I uncover, and would it realign my dreams or fracture them beyond repair? Inside the sterile room, the muted sounds of machinery faded into the background, replaced by the thudding of my heart. Dr. Harris gestured for me to sit, and I reluctantly obliged, acutely aware of the heaviness in the air. Vivian and Eli remained just beyond the doorway, their faces betraying a mix of concern and encouragement, their presence a quiet reminder that I was not alone in this moment. "Mia," Dr. Harris began, his voice steady yet conscientious. "I know this is difficult. I assure you that we are doing everything we can." He paused, the silence stretching between us like a taut wire, ready to snap with the slightest tension. "Your mother's condition requires immediate intervention." A wave of unease crashed over me, and I struggled to find the words, my throat suddenly tight. What does that mean? Is she going to be all right?" The doctor's brow furrowed slightly, as if navigating how to deliver news that could shatter or solidify my already fragile state. "We found something concerning during her last checkup. It's serious, and while there are treatment options, we need you to understand the implications." That I felt the walls start to close in, the air thickening with dread. Implications? The word tasted foreign on my tongue, loaded with an intensity one could neither grasp nor brace for. "I can't make any promises, but we need to discuss treatment and what that entails," he said gently. "Your mother may need your support more than ever now." In that moment, something shifted within me, despair battled with resilience. I wanted to scream, to claw at this reality that felt so unjust, cruel. But as I looked at Dr. Harris, I found an unexpected glimmer of hope nestled between the lines of his stoic expression. What if she doesn't want treatment? The question slipped out before I could halt it, wrapped in fear and a shred of stubbornness. "Then it's important to have that conversation with her," he replied, his voice a steady anchor. "But please know, it's her life we're discussing. You have a say in this, and we'll guide you through each step together." Together. The word lingered in the air, cascading through me with warmth amid the chill of despair. I took a deep breath, trying to sift through the tidal wave of emotions, memories flashing before my mind's eye, laughter shared over mundane dinners, my mom's comforting presence, and all the dreams we had built together. "Can I see her now?" I managed to ask, my voice heavier than I expected. "Of course. I'll have a nurse take you back," he said, standing as he gestured for me to follow. As I walked toward the door, the tight knot in my chest began to fray, just a little, with the mind-bending realization that perhaps the fragility of life could also present a chance for deeper connection, for healing not just for my mother, but for us both. As we approached her room, I felt a swirling mix of dread and determination coursing through me. I would have this conversation. I would stand by her side, no matter how painful it might be. The nurse opened the door, and I stepped inside. My mother lay in the bed, pale but serene, the soft beeping of machines marking the rhythm of her breaths. She turned her head slowly at my entrance, a smile breaking through the weariness in her eyes. "Mia," her voice came out fragile yet warm. "I was hoping you'd come, Mom," I whispered, forcing back tears as I moved closer, taking her hand in mine. Her skin felt cool, but warmth radiated from her grip, grounding me. "I'm here. Can we talk?" She nodded, and for a heartbeat, everything felt as it should. Then her gaze shifted, becoming distant as if peering into some unseen realm. "I don't know how to tell you." "Tell me what?" My heart raced, the air thinning with anticipation. Suddenly, her expression shifted, a mixture of vulnerability and courage painting her features. "I've been keeping something from you for a long time. And it's time you know. It's the only way to understand what's happening to me." The gravity of her words hung heavy, and I felt the walls of our shared reality begin to crack. "What is it?" Just as she opened her mouth to respond, a loud commotion erupted from the hallway. A crash, followed by frantic voices, interjected our moment. My heart sank as panic prickled my skin. "Stay here," I said, glancing toward the door before quickly exiting the room. I had to know what was happening. What new challenge was waiting for us? In the corridor, chaos reigned. Emergency lights flashed overhead, and medical personnel rushed past me, their faces tight with urgency. I spotted Dr. Harris amidst the tumult, his brow furrowed as he spoke into a phone, his voice raised, causing bile to rise in my throat. "Mia." Eli called from the far end of the hallway, his expression etched with worry. I took off toward him, fear fueling my hurried steps. But just as I reached his side, the door to my mother's room swung open, and I turned to see the nurse rushing in, a look of alarm plastered across her face. Panic surged through me anew. "What's wrong?" I shouted, but before I could decipher her response, a doctor on the move suddenly cried out, "Code Blue." Horror pierced my heart, the reality of their call crashing down on me like a tidal wave. Time slowed, my world narrowing to a singular focus. I whipped around to the open door of my mother's room, already dreading what I might see. "Mia," Eli squeezed my hand as voices blurred around us, but the frantic faces of the medical team surged forward like an unstoppable tide. Just outside her room, the realization of dread became compounded. Not only was the fight for life about to begin, but the truth my mother had been ready to share was drowning beneath the chaos of an unforeseen crisis. "Mom!" I screamed against the tide of voices, feeling helpless, knowing that nothing, no amount of courage, could shield me from the truth that awaited, lurking in the shadows of uncertainty, ready to force its way into the light. And as I stood there, caught between despair and hope, I silently prayed whatever lay ahead, I was ready to face it, whatever the cost. The reality of the moment felt suspended in time, the noise around me fading into a distant hum. I squeezed Eli's hand tighter, as if our connection could somehow alter the bleak trajectory before us. I was acutely aware of the sudden weight of my breath, the rapid thumping of my heartbeat drowning out everything else. "Mia, we need to step back," Eli urged gently, his voice breaking through my daze. I shook my head. I refused to move. My mother was in there, this was her fight, and I would be damned if I surrendered my place at her side. Panic surged within me, but I couldn't afford to let it consume me. No, I had to be the anchor here, for her, for the woman who had always been my safety net. I turned to the nurse, desperation spilling into my voice. "What's happening? Is she okay?" The nurse paused, her face softening, but there was that look again, the one that revealed more than words ever could. "We're doing everything we can, Mississippi. Please, just let us work," she said, her tone a mix of compassion and urgency. But how could I let them work when the uncertainty gnawed at my soul? Eli pulled me aside gently, his voice a murmur now as he attempted to shield me from the frantic energy swirling around us. "Mia, it's hard for everyone. You need to breathe. We can't help her if I know." I interrupted, my voice suddenly sharp as I felt my composure cracking. "I just can't stand here. I can't just wait and do nothing. Sometimes, waiting is all we can do," he replied, his grip softening as he assessed my crashing resolve. "Step back for now. Let them do their jobs." In that moment, I felt like I was locked in a glass box, watching the world struggle while I remained anchored in place, powerless. My heart pushed against the confines of my chest with each deafening second that passed. Every instinct screamed for me to barrel through that door, yet all I could manage was to remain rooted in the chaos just outside. But then I felt a presence beside me, a steady hand on my shoulder. It was Vivian, her voice a calming balm against my frayed nerves. "Mia, this isn't about losing hope," she said, her eyes searching mine with fierce honesty. "Your mom is a fighter. She raised you to be strong, remember? This is a chance to hold on to that." I nodded, though my throat felt raw, and within me swirled a storm of anxiety and a flickering flame of hope. Perhaps my mother was fighting even now, and as long as she breathed, we could forge that path together. Just then, Dr. Harris emerged from my mother's room, his expression grim but determined. "We need to talk," he said, and with that, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. My heart sank. "What's going on?" I demanded, my pulse racing as I stepped closer, my need for answers overpowering the fear that gripped me. "Your mother is stable for now," he began. Those words offered a sliver of relief, albeit harsh against the backdrop of the moment. "But we need family to make decisions regarding treatment." "This is critical, treatment," I echoed, and as I spoke the word, I could sense the complicated array of emotions swirling between us: fear, love, the weight of expectations. The realization washed over me that I was about to tread into murky waters, waters that might lead to uncovering how deeply my mother had hidden her struggles. But it wasn't just about her, and I recognized that the complexity of our family dynamic was about to be laid bare. She shared something with me before everything happened. Something important. My voice trembled as I spoke. I had no idea how to navigate this conversation or what it might mean. Dr. Harris' eyes held a flicker of understanding, and he nodded as if he could appreciate the intricacies of our shared history. It's crucial you have that conversation with her, not just for your comfort but for hers. And that was it, wasn't it? I needed to have that talk not just for myself and the answers I sought, but to let her know that her life, her choices mattered more than anything else. Just as I steeled myself to return to her side, a trumpet of commotion erupted again from her room. The sound seemed to bounce off the walls, throwing a chill that raced up my spine. I turned back to Dr. Harris, fear once more murkying the edges of reason. What's happening? Is she okay? This is standard, he began, but suddenly, another nurse sprinted past us, urgency seeping from every pore. No. The word fell from my lips as I reacted instinctively, rushing back toward the door only to feel Eli latching onto my arm fiercely. Let me go. Mia, wait. He hissed, his grip steadying me even as I trembled, but the door opened before I could fully think things through, and a crowd of people moved purposefully like a whirlwind through the doorway. I caught glimpses of my mother, the unaware brave heart that she had been, swallowed by the chaos. Someone shouted for more equipment, voices overlapping with a cacophony of fear. Mia, this isn't the right time. Eli resisted, still pulling gently but firmly. And for a split second, I stood frozen, my heart writhing in anguish. Then it hit me. I have to go. I'm her daughter. I need to be in there. The words took flight, spilling out with every ounce of urgency in my being. As I broke free from Ella's hold and barreled through the doorway, I felt time stretch again, the air electrified with emotion. This couldn't be it. This wasn't how I would lose her, not before understanding the weight of her secrets nor the depths of love intertwined with her choices. But as I stepped into the chaos, my breath caught again. In the center of the tumult, amidst the frantic efforts of the medical team, I saw my mother's eyes wide in shock, the truth lurking there, a truth that threatened to eclipse everything else. And then, in a strangled whisper that sailed over the chaos, she spoke a name that stopped my heart cold. Mia, it's your father. The words mushroomed within me, flooding my mind with confusion and pain as they unveiled a reality I had never considered, one that might reshape everything I thought I knew about the woman I had always loved. The emotions roared within, a tempest of both fear and fragile hope, crashing together as I locked eyes with her. In that moment, I understood that I wasn't just seeking to connect. Now, I had to wade through the wreckage of our past to find her, to find us both amid the storm approaching. Because within that revelation lay a fierce urgency, a promise that perhaps, just perhaps, through this chaos, we could confront the tides that bound us while holding on to the flickering hope of a future yet unwritten. As the chaos unfolded around me, my mother's words echoed through my mind, heavy with implications. It's your father. The name hung in the air like a specter, shrouded in years of silence and unspoken truth. My heart raced, a chaotic symphony of emotions battling for supremacy as thoughts spiraled in every direction. My father? Was he a memory, a ghost haunting my past, a reason for my mother's struggle now laid bare? Mom, what do you mean? I cried out, desperation clawing at my throat as I pushed past the fray of medical staff surrounding her. Their shouts faded into background noise, an unfamiliar reality blooming amidst my turmoil. The frail figure of my mother lay on the hospital bed, pale, yet formidable, even grasping at remnants of strength despite the swirling tempest of medical equipment around her. Mia, her voice trembled, wavering between the realms of consciousness and vulnerability. Her eyes searched mine, pleading for understanding, and suddenly, the vast gulf of years apart twisted closer. I didn't want you to know. Not like this. Not like what? I don't understand. I felt the hysteria creeping back into my voice, desperation bubbling to the surface as clarity eluded me like a mirage. What had my mother kept from me all this time? What truths had she hidden, entangled in her silence and suffering? In that instant, I felt Eli step beside me, his presence grounding but simultaneously amplifying the urgency of this moment. My gaze flickered to him, and I found his eyes filled with a mix of concern and compassion, silently supporting my resolve. Breathe, I reminded myself. Just breathe. The nurses continued their work around us, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from my mother. Mom, just tell me the truth. Please. She inhaled deeply, visibly gathering her strength amid the struggle within. Your father, he left before you were born. I thought it was best to protect you from the hurt and heartbreak of that reality. But it's far more complicated than that. Confusion washed over me, muddling my thoughts. What do you mean? Why would it matter now? A spark of resolve ignited in her eyes, something I recognized, the fire of a fighter long buried beneath layers of fear and silence. Because, Mia, he's been sick. I received a call from the hospital this morning. I didn't want you to worry, but her voice quivered, drowning in emotion as she continued, it's now or never. I can't keep this from you anymore. My heart clenched painfully. One revelation brought forth another tidal wave, crashing down as realization settled within me, swirling into a vortex of emotions I longed to escape. My father had never been a benign ghost, he was a truth locked away in our past that fragility threatened to unravel, but before I could focus on the fragile thread mending my past with these revelations, another nurse rushed to my mother's side, her voice frantic yet focused, we need to stabilize her before we begin treatment. Stabilize? I echoed, my stomach flipping, suddenly realizing that her admission of weakness had a far greater gravity. What's happening, Mia? Eli interjected. Let them do their job. We need to be sure she's okay. The urgency in his tone pierced through my spiraling thoughts, forcing me to acknowledge the weight of the situation and the need to respect the party tending to my mother, but none of it made sense. Nothing could settle in my mind as the layers of truth unfolded. His dedication to this moment, the chaos swirling around us, the urgency of my mother's health, and the secrets of my past, all interwoven, felt vast and bewildering. Mia, my mother insisted, capturing my gaze, undeterred by the rapid pace. I could see her trembling, fear tinged with a strange sort of vulnerability as she uttered, we can face this together, I promise you. But only if you're with me. The sincerity in her voice cascaded through my heart, the very foundation of our relationship crumbled beneath that plea. But you need to tell me everything. I deserve to know. I will. I promise. Just not now. Right now, I need you to breathe and stand by me. The conviction in her voice reignited a flicker of understanding. A path forward seemed even more daunting. Okay, I whispered, finally letting the facade of control slip as I took her hand fully in mine. Part of me knew that within this chaos, the choice to be there for her had the potential to mend the fracture between us. Call your father, she whispered, and each syllable fell like a stone in my gut. The treatment may take time. You should have the chance to meet him, to understand. Meeting him? The thought petrified me, sending tremors through my very core. How could I embrace a past so wrought with sorrow? But as I stared into my mother's eyes, I saw a depth of pain that mirrored my own, a kind of growing understanding that despite the weight of our history, we could find our voices amid the truth. Before I could respond, the disjointed noise suddenly burst into focus as my mother drifted into another conversation with the doctors, leaving me with Elliot, who remained by my side with steadiness etched into his expression. That I am here, he said quietly, the words meant to soothe but charged with their own. Wait. Whatever you choose, I'm with you every step of the way. Tears brimmed at the edges of my vision, a tidal wave of emotion surging through me, a bittersweet concoction of relief and anguish as the pieces slowly fell into place. I nodded gently, leaning into him as I wrestled with the complexities of the journey ahead. What now? I asked, my voice trembling between resolve and fear, searching for clarity against the uncertainty ahead. Now we wait, and we hold on. Whatever happens, we face it together. You have to remember the light within you that made it through to shine on others. That voice you've been trying to find can still guide you both, he whispered, eliciting a soft sob from deep within. Thank you, I managed between shaky breaths, feebly clutching at hope amidst the encroaching shadows. Then, in the suffocating silence, my determination firmed. I would confront my past, brave the winds of change, not just for me, but for her, for us both. As I turned back toward my mother, my heart quickened and unexpected calmness settled, basking in the deep well of love that tethered us against life's chaotic forces. I had a choice to make, and I would help her embrace this fight, one that would lead not just to healing but to new beginnings. That I leaned forward, whispering into the cacophony of voices, "I'm here. No matter what, we're together. I promise." The weight of that promise lingered in the air, a tether wrapping around my heart as I glanced over at Eli and Vivian, who waited beyond the door like steadfast pillars of support in this charged moment. I was ready to face the unknown, ready to forgive, ready to heal. Because beneath the shadow of fear and uncertainty lay the self-chosen journey toward hope, and my voice, no longer just a whisper, was finally ready to be heard. In that sacred unfoldment, I finally understood, dreams weren't about flying alone, they thrived in the shared struggle, the embrace of connection, love, and the indomitable spirit of choosing life together. From that moment, I knew in a world filled with complexity, perhaps the greatest strength would lie in learning to sing our truths together. Each note, a memory, a dream, merging into harmony like the fragile strands weaving the tapestry of who we all were meant to be. And as one final breath coursed through the room, I knew that the future started now, unfurling like a new song, ready to be sung.